Welcome to Buffalo After Dark, everybody. It's your Wednesday night uncensored, unfiltered, and unafraid sports show. You still up? This episode of Buffalo After Dark starts now. Alright, welcome back to Buffalo After Dark, and we actually have some brand new news that's come out a little bit earlier today. So, one of the big stories that we've been following for the past 9 days or so was with Damar Hamlin, and he was actually released from Buffalo General Medical Center earlier today. So, the good thing is that he was passing all of his tests. He's in really good, stable condition at this point, and he is going to be continuing his recovery at home and also with the Bills team physicians. So I'll tell you, 9 days ago, we saw probably one of the worst things we could ever see and we would have never thought about. And here he is, 9 days later, walking out of the hospital and on his way to recovery.
Absolutely. And you know what? Good for him, man. He's a fighter, and he will continue to fight no matter what happens. And I will say, though, that once he gets on his feet and once he's able to get to the games, oh, my God, that place is going to go nuts.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and I don't know if it'll happen this Sunday, but just picture if he were to show up in the stadium this coming Sunday with the Dolphins. Oh, my God.
Yeah, I don't know. I've heard that might happen with DeMar. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to suit up and play, but what I have heard is that he might walk out on the field with the team and just be able to be there for his guys.
Yeah, if that happens, sorry, Miami, you're going to lose already. Well, you're already in bad shape to begin with, but we'll talk about that in a few moments. But then on top of that, we also had some other news that came out a little bit earlier today, and this is a good thing for us. So, safety Micah Hyde and wide receiver Jamison Crowder, they're active. They're in that 21-day window now. So what we thought was going to be potentially season-ending injuries for both players, they're doing full practices.
You know what's funny? Everybody was saying this, and I remember reading about this a few weeks before the playoffs, that there was a rumor that Micah Hyde might come back for the playoffs. And I didn't really believe it at the time because, you know, people make up shit just for clicks. But, you know, looking at it now, you know, it's safe to say that that they were pretty accurate about it. So kudos to whoever wrote that, because at the end of the day, the Bills, man, oh man. And we thought that Hamlin going down was bad. Well, obviously it was. And then the team getting healthier, the team is going to get not only healthier, but stronger.
Oh, yeah. And it's coming at the right time because the Dolphins right now, they're out like 7 starters, including Tua. And they're out Bridgewater, too.
I actually heard it was 8 starters because I actually got a chance to look. Yeah, I actually got the chance to read the Miami Dolphins injury report.
It's not good.
No. It is not good at all. Let me read this to you.
Yeah.
I really want to read this to you. And I actually retweeted it on Twitter for tonight's show because I really wanted to read this to you. And keep in mind, guys, we're not being cocky. We're just saying reality in the situation here. And here we go. So, Teron Armstead, who was out with a toe, pec, knee, and hip injury, did not practice today. And then you have Bradley Chubb with an ankle and hand injury. Did not practice. Liam Eichenberg with a hand injury. Did not practice. Melvin Ingram with a non-related vet rest. Did not practice. Kendall Lamb, he has an ankle injury. Did not practice. Raheem Mostert with a thumb. Did not practice. Brandon Shell did not practice with an ankle and knee injury. And, of course, Tua Tagovailoa, who did not practice this week at all. He is still in concussion protocol. And you know what? I'm glad the Dolphins did not play him, because if they played Tua this week, they would have jeopardized his whole career.
Yeah, and it already sort of is, I guess, in one way if we look at it, because you look at all the concussions he's had this year. That second one in Cincinnati was absolutely brutal compared to the one that happened here. And it's just absolutely crazy how that guy just keeps getting his bell rung the way he is. I mean, and I think he had one last year, if I remember correctly.
I don't remember that, but I know he had a concussion in Alabama, and I know he had a severe hip injury that almost put his career in jeopardy to begin with, and he was able to play. But you know what? I don't wish injury on anybody, even Tua.
Oh, same here.
Tua does not deserve this by any means. If anybody, this is on Mike McDaniel, this is on the medical staff, this is on the team in general. They're all pieces of shit, and they've clearly shown their colors. And Dolphins fans, I don't know if you've been following along with it on Twitter, but a lot of Bills fans, before the news about Tua came out, they were saying, well, if Tua plays, then it's going to be closer, and Miami's not going to be an easy challenge, and all that stuff. And I said, nothing in the NFL is easy. I don't care how many injuries you have. But as far as the Dolphins go, the Dolphins are now suffering in the worst possible time what the Bills experienced earlier this year.
Yeah, true story. And the fact now, let's see, we've got that momentum going because with Hamlin doing better, that's a huge lift up for us. And the fact that he's just out of woods with that dangerous situation that he was in for 9 days. But now with Micah Hyde coming back, there you go. You've got a great safety coming back, and you have that good tandem going on again. So that's a huge step up. And then if Crowder comes back, you're getting size in that wide receiver position back.
Yeah, you know what it is though. And I looked at it, I'm like, Crowder, whatever. But Micah Hyde, I was like, oh my god,
That's a game changer.
yeah, that was a huge gamer. And yesterday, 24 hours ago, there was a tweet. I forgot who wrote it. And he was saying that there was a surprise in store for the Bills. And I figured, well, what is it? Is it a uniform change? Is it a player that's coming out of the injury reserve? Is it Von Miller or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
I saw that it was Micah Hyde. And I saw that. I'm like, is he really? Like, wow, dude.
Yeah,
He healed.
I had to do like a double take, and then I'm like, did his neck really heal up that quick?
Yeah, and somehow he was advanced in like healing and all that. You know what's funny? I remember when Eric Cole, when he played for the Carolina Hurricanes 15 years ago, almost 20 years ago, when the Hurricanes won the Cup in '06. I remember in that March when they played the Penguins, Eric Cole hit his head onto the boards and he was diagnosed with a fractured vertebrae, which was a career-threatening injury at the time. And he was out for the majority of the playoffs, except for games 6 and 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals against the Edmonton Oilers. And he came back, and he didn't really put up much of a production, but he was Eric Cole, like Eric Cole.
Yeah, and I mean it's just crazy to think now that that a lot of these players, what we would have thought are potentially season-ending injuries in the past, they're not that case anymore. I mean, we've actually seen some cases with ACLs coming back less than a year. So it's just really interesting, like how things have really moved so much forward, especially in the last 5-10 years.
Yeah, and you know what? I think medicine has gotten better, training has gotten better, things like that have gotten better. But there are some players that do push through to get better. I know the Dolphins with Tyreek Hill, and the reason I know it is because it was told to me that I think it was Andy that actually told me. He said that Tyreek Hill was going over to Tua's house on Monday or Tuesday night because he knew the Dolphins, were screwed either way without Tua. And I think even with Tua, the Bills were due to beat him. But
Yeah.
no, so and the rumor was that Tyreek went over to Tua's house to try to convince him to come off of IR, and Tua straight up said, "That's not up to me." And he was right because it clearly showed today. It was up to the team doctors. The doctors did not clear him, and he's out for the playoffs.
Yeah. And it's actually it's crazy right now. It's like I'm just taking a look at. And it's funny because I'm actually looking at DraftKings, I was trying to see some of the latest lines on there. But right now, with how they're looking at it, it looks like with what I'm seeing here, the total is going to be 54.5, and the money line is plus 155 if you bet Miami. But if it's basically a 4.5 point spread, and the line if you bet Buffalo, it's minus 180. So Buffalo's got the advantage on that.
Can you speak to me like that, like I'm a 5-year-old? Like, is it like negative 13 or is it negative like 20? Because that's how I mean, I understand the betting line numbers, but like I don't really follow that because I don't really bet. But I've heard a lot of people say that could be a blessing or it could be the worst case scenario because they say the higher the number, the odds don't look good. Because I remember one year with the Rams, the year before they won the Super Bowl, I think it was the Jets, or it might have been it was the year before the Rams won the Super Bowl. They were playing the Jets, and the Jets were tanking when they had Adam Gase, and the Rams were a 17.5 negative point favorite over the Jets, and the Jets beat them.
Yeah, I mean, usually what happens if a team is listed in the negative for a money line, that's usually a good indicator that they're going to win. It's usually how it works out. So the fact that Buffalo's minus
Yeah.
180, that's actually a good thing. And then the total is going to be 54.5 is what a lot of people are thinking for the game. So, I mean, that's kind of where they're at. Buffalo's looking at a 4.5 point spread. So typically, as long as you're betting within the spread, as long as it's a 4.5 point win by the Bills, you're fine. You're making money. So that's usually how that works. But although I will say a lot of people got the whole TCU Georgia Bulldogs game wrong because TCU got their ass handed to them,
God.
and that was an embarrassment. Watching
No, that was a fucking massacre. Okay, I didn't
Yeah.
watch that game. I actually turned it off in the second quarter because it was gonna get so boring
Yeah.
because of blowout.
Wasn't it like 38-7 at halftime or something crazy, and then it was like a 65-7 final? I mean, it was just a straight up beatdown.
Yeah, TCU didn't. Looking back on it, I thought TCU was making a very good like Cinderella story.
Uh
No,
huh. Oh, they didn't show up.
no, they didn't even bother. Maybe in like the beginning of the game they showed up, but then afterwards it was just like full speed ahead.
Yeah, they didn't get the memo that there was an actual national championship going on one of the biggest stages in the world, known as SoFi.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know how the Dolphins are gonna survive this. I just don't. I mean, I'm not dick riding the Bills about this because I am a Bills fan, but I just don't see how the Dolphins are going to survive Buffalo. They're too good on defense. That's
Yeah.
that's the big boys. That's like the big cheese. The Dolphins did, and you know what? I'm going to say this now. This is honestly the best fucking thing to happen to them because if you remember back in the beginning of the year, dating back to the offseason, Miami the year before they were on the verge of making the playoffs. All they have to do was beat the Bills,
Right.
and they get blown out in Buffalo in January. So that's already an indicator that Miami was in the right direction. And then they fired Brian Flores, and I said, "What are they doing?" And then they bring in Mike McDaniel, and I'm thinking, okay,
Yeah, we were talking about that on one of our previous episodes. How Brian Flores got screwed over there.
yeah,
That
how
good
they
old
treat-
Stephen Ross, who's an idiot.
Yeah, it wasn't even the fact that he was coaching. It was the fact that he wasn't sucking Stephen Ross's dick to tank.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why he got fired. And he was also warning everybody about the concussion issues that Tua had at the time.
Yeah,
And-
and Ross had the tampering scandal with Tom Brady going on at the time. So
Yep, and now Dolphins fans are under the belief that they're going to get Tom Brady. And I said, no fucking way.
he's washed up at this point.
Yeah, I agree. But no, so, and then they trade for Tyreek Hill. And people are thinking maybe the Dolphins are legit. And I said, I understand where they're coming from. You know, you're getting an established wide receiver in Tyreek, and you haven't paired up with Jalen Waddle. And then you get Raheem Mostert, and then it just becomes this West Coast offense. And the Miami Dolphins are not an invincible organization. Their fans act like they are. And they're a bunch of assholes about it, too. And so I remember going back to September at the time when they played Buffalo, when the Bills had like 11 of their starters out, all on defense, I think.
Yeah,
It may have been
90
offense.
plays. 90 plays in the heat, where it's like 40 degrees warmer on the sideline we were on.
Yeah, it was like warmer, like 20, 30 degrees like warmer or
Yeah.
cooler on the Miami side. And then the Bills had to sit in the sun. And Dolphins fans were saying, no excuses. You guys are frauds, this and that. They don't want us using any excuses. And I even said it. And I said, the Bills played a good game, even if they lost by 2 points. And then Dolphins fans, like mid-October or whenever it was, they were getting very cocky about their team. And then, of course, they were like 7-1 or something like that. And then they just kind of just went downhill from there. And Mike McDaniel had to cover up his ass with lying about the whole concussion thing with Tua. And I think that's what it is. I think the Miami Dolphins have lost their integrity with the league and with the fans, with their trust in their ability to examine injuries. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, Tua is going to be the most famous case in this area.
Yeah, seriously. And well, we know how Miami fans are. I mean, look what happened during that game. At halftime, they were showing on the damn Jumbotron how some moron decided to leave a gas grill on underneath a car and he blew up 12 cars.
Oh my God! Yeah, I remember that. Wasn't that the Buffalo Miami game?
Yeah, that was the Buffalo-Miami game in Miami where we ended up losing by 2. And they actually showed on the Jumbotron during that game at halftime that someone left a grill underneath the car and they had like 12 cars on fire because everything caught.
I bet you the guy that did that probably got sued.
Wouldn't surprise me. The guy's a dumbass for doing it.
Yeah, but I think looking back on it, leading up to now, the Dolphins are the weakest team going into the playoffs, next to the Seahawks and next to a bunch of handful of teams, even the Ravens. But it's just amazing to me when you think about it that the Dolphins and with their fans, they were acting very arrogant and cocky. There was a guy, I think his name is Nicky Smokes on Twitter, and he made up a bullshit story in the Buffalo game in September. And he said that a Bills fan grabbed a little kid's plushy dolphin with a pocket knife and tore up the plush in the inside or whatever it was, and he was trying to prove a fake point. I'm like, dude, that's not how Bills fans act. That's just you being full of shit. And
Right.
yeah, Dolphins fans are arrogant.
Yeah, they are. I mean, typically, anytime we've ever seen Bills fans, I would say like 99% of them, no issues. I mean, even when we went to Kansas City, there were a lot of good Bills fans there. And actually, a lot of the Kansas City fans were really cool to talk to, too, because we actually had some of them tailgating next to us when we were there. And then we ended up talking to some after the game, too. I mean, it was really a good situation. They have a good fan base like we do. And even when things happen, to different fans within our own fan base, I mean, for anyone who watched the first half hour of our show tonight, that's one of those things. We come together and we pull each other up, and that's what we did. And I was going to say, I really loved doing that interview in the first half hour, because that was just, it was one of those things that, we've never had that type of situation before, where we've had like a true person that's a warrior fighting, dealing with cancer, worse stuff than a lot of us could ever picture. But I mean, the fact, it was great to see it, and we're happy to help pull people up, just like the rest of the fan base is.
Absolutely, without a doubt. And Sophia is she's a sweetheart.
She's awesome. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All of them. Yeah, that whole family is awesome. I mean, and we're happy to do what we're gonna do for them too. We know that they'll like it. But coming into what we're going to have here in this game, I mean, I'm just looking forward to it, because now it's like the team is actually getting healthy, and that's a great thing coming up. And actually, our friend Andy, I know he's working tonight, but he actually did send us some information about the Sabres. We're not going to talk a whole lot about the Sabres tonight, but it looks like what he's saying is that the Sabres may not be able to sign Eric Portillo playing for the Michigan Wolverines. And it looks like that Portillo is going to look at free agency. So basically with that, that's a whole different situation, because of how we have UPL, Devin Levi, and then we have Comrie, who is looking absolutely brutal since he came back. And of course, the Sabres sent UPL down to Rochester, but
yeah,
that's a totally different situation.
Yeah, that's something worth talking about another time. But in general, though, I will say, though, is that the Sabres have so many things going on with them, but it's like, we're not here talking about them because they can wait. But the Bills, it's playoff football time.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got like another 15 minutes we can throw in and talk about stuff. So, I mean, some of the big things that we have to look for, I mean, obviously, if Micah Hyde does take any plays in this game, that's a huge step forward. And that's going to
He's not
really...
playing.
Oh, he's not? Okay.
He's gonna. If there's anything, though, they're saying that if the Bills win the game on Sunday, which they're probably going to anyway, projectively speaking, they're saying that if the Bills beat the Dolphins when they play they're going to be playing the Bengals in the second round in Buffalo. That's going to be the game that Micah Hyde comes back.
Okay. And that'll be interesting to watch, because with that one, that was the whole deal with the home field and how that's going to work. But that's really more of the AFC Championship if it comes down to us versus Kansas City, which I'm thinking it probably will, which that would be a great rematch.
If it's in the New York metropolitan area, I'm going.
There you go. Watch, they played at MetLife if that happens.
If it goes at MetLife, that would be pretty fucking weird. Think about it, because they had the Super Bowl almost 10 years ago at MetLife Stadium, and it was the one time that they played in a cold city in the Super Bowl as like an experiment, and it was actually really warm that day, but they never went back to New York since then.
Right. I think they had something in their stadium deal where they had to do it at least once or something crazy, but just think about it. Hyde gets healthy in time for possibly we look at the second round. If that happens, that's huge. I mean, that's going to be a really good step forward. And then, if Crowder gets healthy, we have more options at wide receiver.
Yep, I agree.
So, it'll be fun to see. And then, now, the one thing we have to look at, though, what does Ken Dorsey do with the offense? Because, here's the thing. There have been reports he is linked to interviewing with Carolina, possibly, for their head coaching opening. But, if I'm Ken Dorsey... stop having Allen play hero ball and actually utilize the weapons you have in the run game. And look what happened with Naheem Hines on the returns. I mean, he got he ran for 197 yards on his own on two returns. Which, that was awesome to see the game open up the way it did, by the way, because that was just like, you knew that set the tone early for how things were going to go. But for him to get that 101-yard touchdown on the return, it was like, game over. Sorry, Belichick, you still suck.
Well, I mean, he's out of the picture right now, isn't he?
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens on Sunday. But I am pretty confident, and it's safe to say the Bills will beat the Miami Dolphins. But again, Melvin Ingram is probably going to be the only one that's probably going to be coming back. Everyone else is a question mark. But ultimately, though, Tua is not playing, and half of their offensive line is banged up. Because I think one of them has already been ruled out or something. I don't really know. I don't give a shit about the Dolphins. I fucking hate them with the passion.
Yeah, same here.
But then again, it is what it is. But you just have to prepare for the Dolphins. Don't take them lightly.
Right. 100%. And it's one of those things, I mean, right now, if anyone's betting on it, you can make some good money on it, but honestly, at 4.5 point spread, I think it's too close. I mean, me personally, I'm not putting anything on any team.
Yeah, I don't bet, so it's whatever. I mean, I just look at it like, oh, okay, I think the Bills have a pretty good chance to win this game. But what do we say we do some playoff predictions? Because I think that we'll see who makes it to the Super Bowl. So let's start from the very beginning. Do you have the bracket on you?
Right now, let me see if I can get the bracket up here.
Because if not, I can send it to you.
Okay.
You know what? I'll send it to you. There you go. Let's send it to you personally.
All right, cool. So I will take a look at that. There we go. Just got it.
Let's put it up on the screen, and we can actually mark our predictions.
Yep. All right, so give us one moment while we do that. All right, there we go. All right, so with what we have going on here, of course, this is the NFL playoff picture that we're looking at. And with what we have on here, let's go through it. So, obviously, we're picking the Bills. There's no question on that.
Yeah, I'm picking the Bills, obviously.
Right. And then from here also... Oh, wait, it's kind of weird. I don't even have that other tool I like to use.
You want to share the bracket on the screen so that everybody can see it?
Yeah, well, it's up. It's just for some reason I don't have that drawing tool I could use, but that's all right. We'll work with it. So we know the Bills. We're picking them, and then if we have to pick the Ravens versus the Bengals, Baltimore has a good defense, but Lamar ain't playing.
Lamar is not playing,
and they're suspect right now, especially, I mean, their run game is pretty decent, but Baltimore, not Baltimore, the Bengals right now, the better overall team. They have a complete run game, they have a good wide receiver core, they have a good defense. I have to take Cincinnati in that.
I agree. I'm taking Cincinnati, and plus of all the bullshit they had to deal with the last week, a week before this game, where they said they were not guaranteed home field advantage in the playoffs, depending on, and even that's despite winning the AFC North, and they get home field advantage anyway. So what's the difference? Yeah,
exactly. So I'm gonna go with Cincinnati on that one. Then we have the Chargers versus the Jaguars, and all I can say is whichever team meets Kansas City, Kansas City's gonna kill them.
I disagree.
I mean, although, granted, Houston almost did beat Kansas City, but the Chargers and the Jaguars, that's an interesting matchup.
Because no one's really seen Justin Herbert or Trevor Lawrence in the playoffs.
Right. And, I mean, both teams are, so close in terms of, where they are, strength of their receiving core, strength of their running core. I would almost have to venture, though. I would probably lean more towards the Chargers, just because, I mean, Justin Herbert has had additional playoff experience, and I think that they have enough to potentially edge out Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars. I just think that the Chargers are just slightly better, but it's almost a draw.
So you're taking the Chargers?
Yeah, I'm going to take the Chargers on this one.
For me, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to take the Jaguars. And the reason for that is, Trevor Lawrence has to live up to his expectations from Clemson, because he was considered as the best prospect QB best QB prospect since Peyton Manning. Like that's how far, or even Andrew Luck. So I think with that, Jacksonville has been red hot lately, and they've beaten some pretty good teams, even Baltimore.
Hmm.
So I think from that retrospective, though, I like their defense a lot. Now, if they had the defense from the days of Jalen Ramsey and Yannick Ngakoue and Marcel Darius and Calais Campbell, I think they would have definitely steamrolled the Chargers. Their offenses on both sides of the ball are even, I guess you could say, because Herbert's got Mike Williams, he's got Keenan Allen. And looking at Jacksonville, he's got Christian Kirk, he's got Zay Jones, who we made fun of. And then Evan Ingram's having a solid year. Travis Etienne is one of the best running backs that's up and coming in the NFL. Austin Eckler is already an established running back. So, all in all, though, I definitely like the strides that Jacksonville has been taking lately. So, with that, I'm going to take the Jaguars.
Okay, fair enough. And then what happens is then, of course, we ended up picking the Bengals and the Bills for the divisional round. And then, with that being said, that is a good matchup. That is definitely a good matchup. And I do think the Bills will have more firepower to come over the Bengals. And look at what happened 9 days ago. There was still there was still like 95% of the game ahead, so we can't judge it off of that.
Yeah.
But how the Bills have played the Bengals the last few matchups, they've been able to win. And here's the reason being. Josh Allen can throw the long ball. He can spread the wide receivers out, open up the slot. That's totally fine. And it also works out, especially if we're having double team coverage on Gabe Davis, on Stephon Diggs. The fact now we have the slot options again, we can either go to Beasley or possibly Crowder. That could certainly work. But also Dawson Knox has had a hell of a season. I mean, he's a reliable tight end that we can go to, and the fact that he can get in there and run a lot of those shorter routes to take some of that pressure off of the wide receivers. I mean, that's huge. Now, where we'll say Cincinnati is probably a little bit stronger is the run game because, of course, Joe Mixon. We can't we can't say anything bad about them on that. But I do think the Bills would win it. It's going to be a close game. I would say it's less than 7 points for the differential.
I'm not sure, but I definitely think though that the Bills will definitely have home field advantage at this point because they finished higher in the season than Cincinnati. The game would be on Buffalo, and I'm hoping when they play the Bengals, it's a Saturday night game, so that way the cold can get colder and the weather drops. And I think the Bills play better in the dark, especially in the playoffs. I definitely, that's just a superstition in my opinion. Because look what happened with them last year when they played New England. Everybody thought they were gonna get in this tight competition with them, and it turned out to be a fucking massacre.
Yeah.
So anything can happen. But in general, though, that Bills Bengals game is going to be worth seeing. But referring to your comment about the Bills able to beat the Bengals, you are correct. However, at that time, they also have Andy Dalton and AJ Green. It's not like Joe Burrow or Jamar Chase or T. Higgins or Tyler Boyd. The Bengals have weapons in every category on offense, so you have to be careful what you strive with.
Right. I mean, they've definitely bulked up on that. And T. Higgins is a great wide receiver find for them. I mean, he's absolutely worked out well. And Mixon's a good, solid running back. And yes, as you mentioned, I mean, Burrow can definitely throw a long ball if he has to. So, I mean, it's one of those where it's more of an even matchup than what I would think. But I do think that the Bills have enough to overcome that. And they should be able to pull out the win in this case.
Yeah. Like, is Joe Burrow the guy that we saw, coming out of college? No, but he's definitely one of the top 5 best QBs in the league by far.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Joe Burrow could definitely make anybody better, but Cincinnati is in a very good situation. I mean, these guys went to the fucking Super Bowl last year.
Yeah, and they improved after getting that loss. So, and they actually hung in there pretty much throughout the entire Super Bowl until the last 5 minutes of the game when the Rams ended up coming up, and there you go. But I mean, look where the Rams are this year. They couldn't even do anything. But I mean, Cincinnati has the ability to play in those big games.
Absolutely. So that's for sure. We're taking the Bills.
Mm-hmm.
So what about you in your case? You said the Chargers and the Chiefs. Tell me a little more about this one.
Kansas City, straight up.
You said Kansas City straight up?
Straight up, Kansas City, because they have way more weapons than the Chargers have. And I will say, I mean, you get someone like Smith-Schuster involved, you get their wide receiver corps involved. Mahomes is Mahomes. He will absolutely light people up. And you know what? I think it's not going to be as close of a game as what some people may think.
Yeah, I could see that being the case, but I would take the Chiefs in that scenario. But in my case, I'm going to take Jacksonville over Kansas City, and I'll tell you why.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you why. Because for one, the Jaguars have no pressure on them. Kansas City does. They may have home field advantage, but think about it. Once you go into Arrowhead, you will always find a way to win. Once you leave the first time, win or lose. Look what happened to Buffalo. The Bills lost in the AFC Championship game. They came back the following year. They lost in the second round. Then they came back the following year, this past year. And it's probably going to happen again, but at a different site. But the point I'm trying to make is the Jaguars played the Chiefs earlier this year, and they blew them out. That was before aspirations. And this is at the time when the Jaguars were really, really bad. But they've been playing a lot better since lately. So I think with that retrospective, Trevor Lawrence is starting to develop into this really astounding QB. And the defense, I think, has been better in recent weeks. So, and I definitely think that their defense is 10 times better than Kansas City's by a long shot. So I would take Jacksonville in that situation. So my matchup for the AFC Championship would be Jacksonville versus Buffalo.
That's an interesting one. And here's one thing, now that you're mentioning that, here's one thing to remember. Jacksonville beat us last season when they were not even predicted to do so.
Correct.
And this was before Doug Peterson even became the head coach. So they found a way to do it. And you can't discount them out. They're a good team.
No, but when they go to Buffalo, it's a different story.
Very true. So then, if we look at the AFC Championship, so I have the Bills versus Kansas City. You have the Bills versus Jacksonville. Who would you take in this situation?
In your bracket or my bracket?
In your bracket.
In my bracket, definitely Buffalo, because they're more experienced in the playoffs than Jacksonville by that point. And the Bills learn from their mistakes in every situation they get. So they're not going to just let Trevor Lawrence go into Orchard Park and obliterate them in a sub-freezing cold game. There's no chance.
Right. Yeah, and if I were to take the matchup of the Bills versus the Chiefs, which would be at a neutral site based on everything that happened, I would still have to say, based on what we saw earlier this season. Now, keep in mind, there was a whole 13 seconds last year. Then there was that other loss to Kansas City the year before. In October, we were actually losing in that regular season game, and we came back and found a way to win at Arrowhead. So the Bills learned something there. Hell, we were there to see it. We saw that happen. So I would say the Bills have a better defense overall. Their defense is probably 2 times better than what you have with the Chiefs. Offensively, it's fairly even, and I do think that Kansas City has a little bit of a better running game. But I still think the Bills overall, the extra depth, the better defense, Bills get the win.
Yeah. I mean, and I have to mention this with Jacksonville, is with the Jaguars, in my perspective, Travis Etienne, and I said this earlier, is I think he's one of the best up-and-coming running backs in the NFL. Almost reminds me of Todd Gurley in a sense. Mm-hmm. But Trevor Lawrence, like I said, at that point, would have to show me what he's capable of. Because he went to the national championship game when he went to Clemson. But that's a different story. And he went up against Joe Burrow. However, this is not the NCAA. This is the NFL, which is much, much harder to do. But Jacksonville, Evan Ingram has finally found his game. Christian Kirk is playing an established receiver that the Jaguars massively overpaid. And then you have Marvin Jones Jr. And then you have Zay Jones, who's been lights out for them. So the Jaguars have a good system on offense. And Doug Peterson has been to the Super Bowl, so he knows what it takes to get to that level.
Yep, he knows what he needs to do. It's very clear. So with that, what we're also going to do is we're going to switch over to the NFC side of things, and our friend Adam is actually back on. So he is here, and we'll get some more takes from him. But let's take a look at the NFC. The first matchup we have, of course, Seattle versus San Francisco. I would not want to be going against San Francisco right now.
No.
They are too damn good of a team to be going against. And I think, and I don't, as much as I love the fact that the Seahawks made it, and as much as I love the fact that the Lions knocked out the Packers, which, good for Detroit. And I think Campbell is a finalist for Coach of the Year after changing that team around and actually giving them a winning record, considering that they started, 2-8 or something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
But, yeah, I don't see Seattle doing anything in that matchup. San Francisco wins that hands down. McCaffrey, you got Debo Samuel, and you have one of the best, like, top 3 defenses in the league. There you go. And Mr. Irrelevant has definitely made himself relevant.
Absolutely.
Hey, what's the question here? Come on, I need in on this.
We're doing political predictions. So we just finished up the AFC. He said Kansas City, Buffalo. I said Buffalo and Jacksonville.
Okay, no, let's go game for game, and I'll give you my picks. And break them down, because they're all going to be right.
All right. Bills versus Dolphins, first one.
Well, I'm going to take the Bills on the simple fact that they don't win, then, oh my God, you'll never hear the fucking end of it.
All right. And then we have the Ravens versus the Bengals.
I'm going to take the Bengals on that one.
Okay.
And then the Jaguars versus the Chargers.
Jags.
Okay.
There you go.
Cool. So then, after that, we've got Buffalo versus Cincinnati for you.
I'm going to take the Bills.
Okay.
And then you have the Jags versus the Chiefs.
Chiefs.
Okay. And then you have the Bills versus the Chiefs.
Bills.
Okay, so all 3 of us said Bills. So we're all caught up on that. So NFC. So I said San Francisco. Tom said San Francisco. What do you think?
What do you think I'm going to pick on this one?
San Francisco.
Yep.
Yes.
It's not even close.
Dude, I
feel
swear
so
to God, if Seattle gets out of this without 10 injuries, I'll be surprised.
Right.
We'll see.
Yep. And then the next matchup, we have the Giants versus the Vikings. I'm going to go out on a limb on this, and I'm going to say this is going to be a lot closer than what a lot of people think. I mean, Minnesota's had a really good year. The Giants, they made it in. I do think the Giants will be out after this. I do think the Vikings do get the win just based on a lot of what they've done, especially more on the defensive side of the ball. But the one point that I want to make is that they were down to Indianapolis 33 points, and they had to do a massive comeback just to even pull out that win. So their defense is a little suspect right now.
Yeah, I agree with that. Adam, what do you think?
I'm going to take the dark horse and say the Vikings are fucking frauds, and I'm going to take the Giants.
You know what's funny? I was just going to say the same thing.
They're fucking frauds. The only thing they have is fucking Jefferson. The only thing they have going for them, when you shut down Jefferson, they have fucking nothing. So, yeah, frauds.
Okay, that's fair. I agree with Adam. I'm gonna take the Giants as well, and not because I live in the area or anything like that. But Brian Dable was given lemons, and he made lemonade with that system, with what he's currently got. And I gotta give it to him. The defenses are pretty, like with Wheat Martindale as the defensive coordinator.
Great hire for that.
Oh, big time. But here's the thing: the Vikings defense is fucking ass. So.
Yeah.
And there's
yes, it is. They're fake as fuck, and it's going to show. It's going to show real quick.
And there's a very famous saying in football during the playoffs, and that is offense wins games, defense wins championships. And the Giants, it's not the best team in the world, but they definitely have guys on that roster. They got Dexter Lawrence. They got Kayvon Thibodeau. They got Landon Collins back. Dory Jackson, I know he's injured. He's not the best player in the world, but he's a big part. Xavier McKinney's pretty damn good. Mm-hmm. So the Giants in general are – I'm not going to call them elite because they're not, but they're definitely competitive, and I like that from them. So I'm taking the Giants over the Vikings.
Yeah, and they're getting a lot of the tools in place. I mean, and Martindale, great defensive coordinator. I mean, I was surprised that Baltimore even let him go to interview with the Giants, and the fact that he just did a lateral move. I'm very surprised with that. But great hire by Daboll, though, because that really helped bolster the Giants. And on top of that, he actually made Daniel Jones a serviceable quarterback.
Yeah, okay, well, yeah. He's mediocre at best. It's like fucking Kirk Cousins. You're fucking mediocre at best because you're a wide receiver.
Yeah, really. But then we have the next matchup, and this is probably one of the ones that a lot of people are talking about in the NFC. You have the Cowboys and the Bucs.
You know what? This is probably, I had to think the hardest about this one because there's always that thing in the back of my mind being like, Tom Brady's going to go superhuman and fucking tear up the fucking league. But after what I've seen all year from him, I'm going to take the Cowboys in the simple fact that I think CD Lamb's gonna fucking light him up, and plus Micah, what's his name? Micah Parsons.
Parsons.
He's gonna chew Brady up like a fucking torn up piece of gum and spit him back out. I'm gonna take the Cowboys.
I was kind of thinking along the same way. I would take the Cowboys. I mean, their run game. You have Zeke. You have Pollard. Great combo. Micah Parsons, one of the best in the game. And then
under Bosa.
Yeah.
Right, guys, I disagree with you. In case if any of y'all know by now, Tom Brady has never lost to the Cowboys in his entire career, even when he was with the Patriots of all people. So with that being said, Tom Brady being Tom Brady, and he's going to turn 10 years younger, I'm going to take the Buccaneers.
That's why I said I was on the roast, because Tom Brady always becomes superhuman when it comes to stupid times like this. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, they tried to make him like he was superhuman when he played the Panthers because, he threw for 300-something yards. And Evans is alive, blah, blah, blah. We didn't have a fucking cornerback that could fucking keep up with them. Our star cornerback, maybe no one knew, he was out. Mm-hmm. And we had like a fucking backup dumbass that couldn't even catch up to him on a straight run. So, like, Mike Evans is back. He's got fucking 3 touchdowns. You know what? Yeah. I'm not buying the bullshit. I think the Cowboys are going to tear him apart.
There we go. So then we look at the next matchup, and of course, you guys have San Francisco and the Giants. I have San Francisco and the Vikings. San Francisco, too good of a team. They're going to expose Minnesota. That's an easy one. San Francisco's going forward.
Adam, you go first.
Well, I'm going to follow my boy all the way home. It's going to be San Fran.
Okay, so San Fran goes to the NFC Championship game. You know what? I'm gonna twist the knife on this, and I'm gonna say the Giants pull off an upset.
Really?
No way, dude. No way. There's no way. If they even get past the Vikings, do you think they're gonna have enough energy to go up against San Fran? Not a fucking
that would be like a plus 1,500 money line if you were to even try to bet that.
You know what? I'm gonna do? I'm gonna take Bobby's picks and bet a whole bunch of money on it.
Yeah, watch. It's like throw 250 in there, and you end up walking out with like 50 grand or something crazy.
Listen, at least my betting with Jacksonville was decently reasonable.
My buddy fucking just won 50 grand, and all he wanted was picking the NFC champs, and there was some glitch in the system where he got
nice.
He got upped and upped and upped. So a win that it was supposed to be $3,000 turned to 50.
Wow. I wish I would have bet on Georgia versus TCU because I would have won some really good money on that.
Yeah, I was just telling Tom before. I don't bet. I don't like to gamble. It's not that I don't like to gamble. I just don't really do it.
Hey Bobby, I'm gonna do this just for you. I'm gonna take $1,500. I'm gonna bet it on everything that you pick, and if I win, I will give you half.
Okay.
Okay. You heard it here first.
If I don't win it, then whatever.
If I don't win,
and I'll tell you why I believe the Giants are going to beat the 49ers. For one, the Giants have and I said this a few minutes ago, I said the Giants have a really rock-solid defense with Wink Martindale, and he's beaten some good-ass New England Patriots teams in the past. So with Tom Brady, he's capable of doing it. So I think, even though they don't have the best cast in the world, but I've always said in the past, in my lifetime, that the Giants, that whenever they make the playoffs, I always call them the little team that could. And the reason is nobody believes in them in any category. And the Giants go in, and they go into San Francisco or Green Bay, and they beat them.
Yeah,
Not in the biggest ways and forms, but they could do it. I mean, they're capable of it. I mean, if they could put pressure on Brock Purdy early and shut down McCaffrey, there you go. That's how you get.
Good luck is all I can say. Good luck.
Because McCaffrey's been lighting it up since he came to the 49ers.
And plus, Jones has to worry about that big beast of a fucking Nick Bosa coming around and trashing him every 2 minutes.
Yep. And then you got Debo on top of it.
Good luck. Good luck. You got 2 slot receivers, 2 basic run back slot receiver duo. Good luck.
Yeah, it's literally like and you've got like a top 3 defense in the entire league.
Who you gonna cover? They don't even have anybody to cover both those players.
Right. You can't even double team them. That's like the whole thing.
What are you gonna do? Send Saquon Barkley on the field to fucking cover McCaffrey?
Yeah,
What are you
It's
gonna
like,
do?
good luck.
But I will say though, Saquon Barkley, I think will go off this year on the ground because again, every good team goes through their slumps. In San Francisco, I would not be surprised if they play the Giants in the second round in the playoffs that they would have their little slumps. And I think the Giants, and I'm not saying they'll blow them out, but I definitely think they could potentially beat them by a field goal. That's just my opinion.
It'll
I-
be a tight game because they're both good defenses, right? But I think the run game will be the win. I think
Yeah.
whoever has the best run game that game, that'll decide to win.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, nobody in the league right now has a better run game than the 49ers.
Right. I mean, McCaffrey is just that good. And then look at their running back depth. I mean, they're stacked.
Even wide receivers, dude. You got Debo, you got fucking Ayuk. Yeah, Ayuk.
Yeah.
Dude,
Ayuk's a really good receiver.
Nobody ever covers them because they always think they're going to Debo.
Mhm.
Always.
You have George Kittle.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Kittle.
And even
Fucking
that.
Kittle.
Right. It's like literally you're having to dump it off to a tight end half the time or just run the ball. That's like the only way you have a chance.
He's like he's like fucking Kels on the Chiefs. He's on that level.
Yeah.
Like he's that good. So
Yeah. But
Good
like I said,
luck.
I'm sticking my guns, and I'm just gonna still stick with it and say the Giants are gonna beat the Niners.
I want you to send me your picks afterwards, and I'm gonna use them all. I'm gonna bet some money on it.
There we go.
What are you gonna say to me if the Giants actually beat the 49ers?
I'm gonna love you because if they do, I'm gonna win
You'll
me
make a
lot
ton of money.
Worth a shot.
There you go. There you
All
go.
right.
All right. Then we have our next matchup, which I know I was picking Dallas in the previous round with Dallas versus the Bucks, and Dallas versus the Eagles. Oh my God. Where do I
I'm not
even
gonna
start
go
on
first.
this one?
I'm not gonna go first on this one. I'm not.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not. No, I'm not going
Oh
first.
man.
Might as well. I did.
Nope.
All right, fine. Adam, you go. I mean, Tom, you go first.
That is a tough matchup. and I'm thinking, okay, Dallas has a lot of weapons that they can go to. The Eagles, Jalen Hurts, can really make things happen, but I have to question the losses that Philadelphia had earlier in the season because I think they're a little more hyped up than they really are. I think the Eagles are one and done in this. I have to go with Dallas on this.
Ooh, and you thought I was fucking crazy.
So here's what I'll say. I think Philly is kind of a I said like sham teams. Like the Vikings are like the epitome of sham teams,
Mhm.
but Philly is up there with being like kind of shady, mediocre, fucking like sham teams. But at the same time, you got Brown, you got Dallas Goedert, I don't know. I have to be. Well, I'm gonna pick Dallas. You know what? Yeah, you know what? Toss up. Philly. I'm going Philly.
Philly over Dallas.
Okay.
I'm gonna go Philly because I love Brown, and that's the only reason. Because I can't really. It's a toss up. Like I feel like it's a 50-50 fucking matchup. Anything can go. But I feel like Dak Prescott is going to be exposed for the interception machine he is.
Yep,
Gotcha.
I agree with that. And then for me, my matchup is the Buccaneers and the Eagles. This one's really tough, and the game is in Philly. So I would say in this situation, taking care of the Cowboys would be one thing, but it's another when you go up against the Eagles. I mean, I do agree they're a bit overrated and they're overhyped, but I have to stick by the narrative. I'm taking the Eagles, and simply because the Eagles on both sides of the ball can be really effective. I know they played the Giants secondary. I get it. But on the outside of that, though, Philadelphia, if you look at it from like the ins and outs of both offense and defense, their pass rush is stacked. Like, it's not even fun.
And plus
Like,
they're consistent. They're consistent. They're really consistent, and they do it every game, right?
Yeah. And how many players can you think of throughout the year alone that the Eagles have picked up, and they have just completely like stacked after stacked after stacked. I mean, they made that really big trade with the Saints in the draft, and they got C.J. Gardner-Johnson, they got Ndamukong, they got Robert Quinn, and they've already got a stacked defense with Darius Slay. And then on the offensive side of the ball, you have A.J. Brown, who's easily a top 10 wide receiver, and then you have Dallas Goedert, Jalen Hurts. I mean, you have Devonta Smith, who's extremely underrated. So Philadelphia, just like San Francisco, has got a lot of offensive weapons. You can't cover all those guys. And the Eagles are also a team that likes to do trick plays with Jalen Hurts. And Brock Purdy, in comparison, is not a scrambling quarterback. And I know he's like a rookie and all that, but Jalen Hurts is already like year 3, year 4 for him. And I think with the experience with Nick Sirianni, and with the cast of characters he's surrounded himself with, I think Philly has a really good shot to win that game. So I'm thinking the Eagles.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah. So then we have our... Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just think one more point on that is that Dak Prescott, if you notice when he loses in games where he's getting a lot of pressure, and I guarantee you Philly's going to be all over that guy. If they play, like, look out for super fucking blitz all the time, because and plus I feel like Jalen Hurts is a better quarterback, and not because he's like super awesome or anything, but he is definitely better than Dak Prescott.
Yeah, definitely a lot better with a run game too, especially when he gets open and he's able to do a lot of things like Josh Allen can do. But yeah, watch, it's like Philly's gonna run like overload protections and stuff like that. They'll just get those schemes going. But it'll be an interesting matchup. Now, the NFC Championship, basically, from here, I have San Francisco winning it. I think, same thing, San Francisco's run game, Mr. Irrelevant, really solid QB, and he's been putting up the numbers to prove it. Their defense, if they play the Cowboys, I mean, I think that San Fran just has that much more that they're able to work with it. And I think that their running game, even though the Cowboys have a good tandem with Zeke and they have Pollard, I mean, San Francisco is on a whole nother level. And I do think that San Francisco gets through.
Yeah, I could see that. So your prediction is San Francisco and Buffalo.
That's what I'm thinking at this point. And I think that would be a hell of a matchup.
Yeah. Adam, what about you?
Well, I said it from the beginning. My dream matchup, and right now, like, who would San Fran be playing on my pick?
Who did you pick last round? You said Dallas, right?
No, Philly.
You said okay, so it would be Philadelphia and San Francisco.
Yeah, so I'm gonna stick with my boy and stick with the San Fran fucking plan, because I think if they were to meet up in the playoffs, I think that would be, not only would it be a high scoring matchup, I feel like it would be, I don't know, it'd be a lot of fucking bombs to the end zone. But I'm still gonna stick with my guns. I'm gonna say that Buffalo plays the 49ers in the Super Bowl.
Okay.
Nice.
And then for me, the NFC Championship game that nobody thought was going to be picking in my situation, which would be the Eagles and the Giants in Philadelphia, the Meadowlands rivalry, as you will. This is a one-sided contest. I'm sorry. I know the Giants. I know I said they would beat San Francisco possibly, but they are not under any circumstance. They are not beating the Eagles. I'm sorry. They got their ass kicked the first time at MetLife Stadium, and they only lost by 7 in the second round not too long ago. So
I wanted you to pick the Giants just so I could like bolster my fucking odds.
all right,
Why just like boost your odds up to like plus 2,500 or something?
Oh my god, I'd be a millionaire overnight.
Right.
You were really hoping for that, weren't you?
Or hell, even give you like a plus 6,000 line. That'll really make you some money.
Oh my
God.
guarantee you no bettors in Vegas are betting on the fucking Giants to win
Yeah.
into the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but Eagles Giants, I think, as an NFC Championship game alone, I think would be very entertaining. But again, it would be a very lopsided, and Philadelphia would that game instantaneously. They kicked their ass this year twice.
Jones can't compete with Wentz, and they can't compete with that.
Not even close.
No, Philadelphia is way too good, and I've already got to see it twice. So I think with that being said, I'm taking the Eagles. So my Super Bowl prediction is Philadelphia and Buffalo in the Super Bowl.
Okay. So we've got two interesting matchups here. So we have Buffalo versus San Francisco for the Super Bowl. You have Buffalo versus the Eagles for the Super Bowl. Oh man. Us versus San Francisco.
I you know what? I don't even want to pick this. I don't even want to pick this because it's I don't know. It's hard. That's a hard match. If I was offered $5 billion to say who's going to win between these two teams, I would be like, fuck me, because I know how the Bills start. I know how San Francisco kind of sits back, and they kind of creep up on you and then fuck you up. So
yeah. San Francisco comes back in the second half, and they just totally destroy an offense.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, man.
Usually everyone's like sleeping on McCaffrey all the time because McCaffrey usually in the first quarter, first half, he's kind of nonchalant, just getting 2-3 yards here and there.
Just feels it out.
Then all of a sudden, there's like Jets are on and he yards on there.
Yeah, and that happened in the second game that he was part of the 49ers. I mean, he just threw the afterburners on, and that was it.
Yeah, good luck.
He's just ridiculous.
Holy Lord.
He's just as ridiculous as he is on his own, honestly. But no, San Francisco and Buffalo, I think, would be a very interesting Super Bowl from your perspectives.
Yeah, I don't even want to pick it, honestly. I mean, I'm thinking it's like, I really want the Bills to win it.
I think for the we should pick the winner and what you think the score would be.
Oh God.
Let's make it even more interesting.
Okay, you go first, Tom.
Oh God, I'm trying to even think how I want to approach this one here. Surprisingly, here's what I'm kind of thinking. You have two of the best defenses going against each other. Buffalo's got a great defense. San Francisco's got a great defense. So I do think to some extent it would probably be a lower scoring game. The problem I see, San Francisco's offense has more weapons than what we have. I mean, yes, Allen I think is by far the better QB compared to Mr. Irrelevant. However, San Francisco has a much better running back core than what the Bills could even think of right now. And I would have to say it's probably going to be a less than 7-point game. I think the first team that makes the mistake and capitalizes on the mistake defensively would probably win the game. I do think the Bills could pull it out, but they better find some answers to that run game because Josh Allen cannot play hero ball during that and expect to win. It's just not going to happen. So I'm thinking it's a tough matchup. I would say I still would have Buffalo make those couple extra plays because Allen's been in the playoffs before. Brock Purdy is not. And he knows what to do. I do think it will be Buffalo +3, and I would say I would look at it as being, I would say probably, let's see, I'm thinking 17-14.
Oh my God. All right, I was thinking the exact same score, but yeah, I was thinking by a field goal, and it's going to be like one of those fucking 60-yarders that's going to win the game because it's going to come down to defense at the end. I really think the The thing that's going to kill Buffalo, though, is the fact of getting the fourth down on the third when there's an opportunity to take the ball back. And I feel like San Francisco is going to use McCaffrey and Debo to their advantage.
Right.
When it comes to those plays that you need that stop for that 5 or 6 yards, I don't think they're going to be able to stop them. And they're going to keep going up the field and itching up the field like that because that's just what they do, right? And you think they can't get the yards, and they'll get them anyway. So I'm going to go 17-14. I'm going to go San Fran.
Okay. My situation's a little different. I think it's going to be a clash of the Titans on defense on both sides of the ball. And again, I said this earlier. I think Philadelphia has a really good defense as well as Buffalo. But Buffalo's D statistically is better than Philly's. So, and taken for retrospective, I understand that the Eagles had some injury concerns earlier in the season or later in the year around this time, around Christmas. But the team is fully healthy, so it doesn't really fucking matter. But at the end of the day, though, when you look at the Buffalo Bills and then adding Micah Hyde in that situation, that secondary is already deadly again. So, and Philadelphia is not going to have to, they're going to rely on A.J. Brown a whole hell of a lot. And Devontae Smith is another great receiver. So, and you also have Tre'Davious White in the back end, and you have Kyrie Elam. So the Eagles, they can go anywhere they can. You can rely on Dallas Goedert. They can go to, again, Devontae Smith. They can go to A.J. Brown. They can go wherever the fuck they want. It's the Philadelphia Eagles.
Right.
However, Jalen Hurts can also scramble the ball. So I think he's hard to read. He's no Josh Allen. He's a good quarterback, but he doesn't have the strongest arm. And when you have to throw the ball deep down like a Hail Mary, I don't think Hurts can do it. I just don't see it happening. And Buffalo has plenty of experience of stopping that. So I think with that being said, with the Bills, I think they're going to manipulate the run game. They're not going to make it like Miles Sanders-ish, where the Eagles have Boston Scott and Miles Sanders. You have those two guys. Scott is being used as a third down back, and then James Cook is being used as a third down back as well. So I think that could go either way. But I think it's going to really come down to who is the most conservative defensive team in this game.
I think if I was to pick the matchup between what you picked, I'd pick the Bills solely on the fact that I think Tre'Davious White could fucking watch Brown like a fucking hawk the whole fucking game. He wouldn't get a yard. I feel like he'd be all over him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Trey White came back into form as we saw this past weekend. So, I mean, he ended up shutting down the Patriots, so...
Yeah, and the Eagles' pass rush is a bit older, too. The Bills are going based on their youth. The Eagles are bringing guys that are older than them. And I'm not saying A.J. Brown's old, because he's still in his prime. Devontae Smith is only in his second year. So the Eagles' receivers are all young. It's the defense. Look at the Ndamukong Suh. Look at Robert Quinn. Look at Fletcher Cox.
Those guys have been around a long time.
They've been around for a long-ass time, dude. They've been playing in the NFL for 10-plus years. All those guys are almost past their prime. And I'm not saying they're washed up, because they're on a really good Philly defense. But what I'm saying is that they're not going to be able to compete with Buffalo at that point. And let's play a quick guessing game. How many linemen can you think of that's on Philly's side of the ball, outside of Lane Johnson, can you think of that's on there?
Fuck, none of them.
Yeah, I mean, same here. I mean, there really isn't.
That's
there really aren't any other standouts.
That's the point, because the Eagles, they're a good offensive team, but they rely on Jalen Hurts' legs too much compared to what the Bills have. So you have Josh Allen, who could both run and throw. He's hard to predict. So with that being said, you can throw it to Gabe Davis, you can throw it to Dawson Knox, you can throw it to Tavon Diggs. You can throw it to any direction. So I think that with being said, the Bills are also younger in this position than Philly. So I think that being said, I think the game will be a defensive clash, and I think it's going to come down to a field goal. And I think the game will be Buffalo 24-21.
Ooh, okay.
That's what I think.
Good stuff.
Make sure you send me all your picks, because I want to bet money on it.
Oh, good.
So imagine I'm actually right about this.
Just off those giant picks, I'll make bank.
You were really hoping I would help turn the Giants into the Bengals, weren't you?
Yes. Yes.
No, that is not happening. The Giants fucking suck against the Eagles. I'm sorry. I watch them.
Good
I watch
point.
a lot of Giants games and Eagles games locally, and the Eagles kick the shit out of them every time.
You know what? You know what would really be fucking good odds if I fucking just said fuck it, put $5,000 on the Dolphins and said let it ride and they went all the way to the Super Bowl.
You're gonna mess out on that, man. I'm telling you, you're gonna go broke real quick if you do that.
Yeah, you know what? Never say never.
There you
That's
go.
true.
True. And there is that saying, any given Sunday. So we know that stranger things have happened this season, but it'll be crazy. But I was gonna say we actually stayed on for a little longer today. We actually had the full hour show after our first half hour, so we ended up throwing some extra time in there tonight. But a lot of good stuff we talked about. Before we wrap up, any thoughts from you guys on what we see this coming weekend?
I'm gonna say best of luck to the Bills. You guys are in for a treat, I think, and let's all hope that it turns out that way.
You know, I'll say this. If you don't beat the Dolphins, my God, I feel bad for you. Because you're going to get fucking, you're going to be berated for fucking years if you don't. So
Oh yeah, by far.
that's all I say. I'm excited to see some good football. But yeah, the Bills should walk over the Dolphins like a fucking moldy piece of bread because there's nothing right now that's stopping them from. There was nothing stopping them from beating them from before with Tua, with everything else. Now you already beat them. Now all you gotta do is the same thing with a less shitty or more shittier team. So
Right.
yeah, just do it for the love of God.
Yeah, exactly. And what I'll say too, I mean, I think that the Bills are definitely going to get this win. It's going to be one of those. I don't think it's going to be as close as what some people may think, but I do think it'll be a good win for us. And then we go up against probably the Bengals at that point. So I'm looking forward to it, and the fact that we have playoff football here again, it's a beautiful thing. So with that being said, everyone that joined us tonight, we appreciate it as always. And of course, we want to say a special thanks to Sophia and Alicia that came on earlier today. We appreciate you guys being on here and giving us some inspiration as well. So Laborde family, great group of people there. We're happy to help you out with everything going on. And for those who would like to make a donation, we do have the GoFundMe that's showing on the screen, and there is the QR code. You can just simply take your phone. If you throw in a few dollars, let's help some fellow Buffalo people out. They're good people, and they could certainly use it. And of course, that being said, we're happy to send you guys a little care package from our end too. So that being said, keep it here. It turned out to be a much better week than what we had last week, thank goodness. But until next time, everybody, take care of yourselves and each other. We'll see you.
Go Bills.